A single mother is in the final stages of her separation. She's facing a custody battle with her awful ex-husband, all while trying to build a new life for herself and her 6-year-old daughter. She's currently unemployed. She doesn't have her own living space, and her ex is slandering her to gain an advantage. And as if that wasn't bad enough, when they finally get an apartment, it turns out it's haunted. So that sucks. Dark Water was a short story by Koji Suzuki, the author of the Ring series. It was directed by Hideo Nakata, the director of some of the Ring series. Dark Water takes a lot of inspiration from Ring. It's first and foremost a mystery, an atmospheric and tragic thriller, with a major focus on protecting your loved ones. Suzuki feels that ghost stories, at least in Japan, need two elements: water and confinement. Water is inherently scary after all, and not just Asani. If the atmosphere is damp, musky, moldy, moist, it conveys dread. There aren't many ghost stories taking place in a desert, so maybe he's onto something there. So this film comes from the author and the director of Ring, and it shares a lot of similarities. But from this point on, I'm going to focus purely on Dark Water. I'd really like to do a retrospective of the Ring series in the near future. It's one of my all-time favorites. But for today, we're going to take a dip into some Dark Water. One of the first things you should know going into this is that it isn't purely a horror movie. It's better to go into this considering it a psychological family thriller. Yoshimi is a struggling mom, and right now she has custody of her daughter, Ikiko. It's apparent right from the get-go that she is a terrific mom, despite the fact that she's awful at picking up her daughter from school. She spends every possible moment during the day trying to better their situation, and when she is with her daughter, she's always present, raising her, supporting her, comforting her. She's trying her absolute hardest. But right, the apartment is haunted, and surprise, surprise, the ghost seems to have latched itself to this broken family. As the mom's mental health goes down the drain, she faces the risk of losing her daughter. And moving from this apartment and forcing her kid to change schools would only damage her reputation. They're stuck. But the ghost itself is really more a B-plot to this story. Ultimately, it's about a mother trying to manage a horrible situation. They're not actively being attacked by a ghost, but their apartment is suffering water damage from somewhere upstairs. And a little red bag keeps appearing on the roof, belonging to a little girl named Mitsuko, who went missing a year earlier. She keeps hearing footsteps, having visions, issuing complaints to the apartment manager, and things only get worse. The horror elements of this movie aren't just about a scary adolescent ghost. It's about feeling trapped, helpless, and isolated. It's about the possibility of losing your daughter, either from an absent father or an evil spirit. It's about protecting a loved one. That's the heart of this movie. That's the focus from beginning to end, the trials of this mother. But that's not to say that Dark Water isn't a scary movie in the traditional sense. There's a lot of creepy imagery here. The score is really effective, and there's a good handful of scares. At its scariest, it might seem like it's little more than a knockoff Ring. Last time, I promise. But it's also drenched in originality, and more importantly, sincerity. These themes come crashing down at the climax, with the mom being taken by the 5-year-old ghost, comforting her, telling her that she's her mom. All this to protect her own child from this malignant spirit. Then, 10 years later, in the epilogue, the daughter returns home, and finally sees her mom again, who is now a trapped spirit, and she has to let go. As a horror movie, it's not necessarily the scariest, but it makes up for it in melancholy. It's haunting in a different sense than what you would get from a typical ghost movie. It might be a bit slow for some, and maybe not quite scary enough, but it's soaked in dread and it's extremely memorable. It has heart. And that goes a long way, even if it is a lot like The Ring. Oh, shit, did it again.